Okay, good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, August 12th, 2021, and we're going to get started with our pre-market analysis on the S&P 500 futures market. Just want to quickly point out here that that 36 quarter level that we talked about just before the open yesterday ended up holding there multiple times throughout that morning session. And then in our overnight session here, right around midnight Pacific time, price did come right back down, break 36 quarter by 2 ticks, or maybe it was 3 ticks, and then got this really strong bounce coming into the pre-market here. So we went ahead and added that as our important level. And then one other important thing to point out is the leg that we made from the low of the overnight session yesterday to the high we made before the right at the open. If you look at that entire leg, you can see that price came down, essentially held the 61.8 retracement, and then got a pretty strong bounce out of that level. So if we just zoom back and look at the previous days, we have a lot of kind of 50 and 61.8 retracement bounces and then continued pushes higher. So just wanted to point out that that's what we saw with yesterday's market. So coming into this morning, let's go ahead and go to our ultra high time frames just to take a look at the larger picture, and then we'll dial down to the shorter time frames here. So the ultra high time frames here are quarterly, our monthly, our weekly, and our daily all look extremely bullish with no indications of exhaustion. So on the daily here, if we just zoom in a little bit, you can see we had the bullish divergence on August 9th, and ever since then we've continued to trend higher here with no pullback so far. And again, no signs of exhaustion on the daily either. So pretty much bullish all the way down so far until we get to our 4 hour. And the 4 hour is kind of this situation where overall the market looks very bullish here on the 4 hour. And we do have some really nice bull divergences off the previous daily low and then off of our overnight low here, which I guess is just about 44.3575. But we do get that bearish indication off of the high right here. So there's overall a bullish market with a little bit of a bearish divergence off of the previous daily high and off of the high that we're making right now. So do want to keep that in mind because we could see a little bit of follow through from that signal, especially if we see it on the rest of the shorter time frames here. So let's go to the bottom end of our high time frames here, the hourly. And again, overall a pretty bullish looking market here. Have the bullish divergence from the previous daily low. And then we do have these bearish indications off of the highs. Now, I don't necessarily think the most recent bearish indication is a signal that I would be personally looking at here. But we do have the analyzer identifying it. We did have it off of that previous swing high, just a few points below this one back here. So, overall bullish looking market with some bearish indications off of the current highs. So we've got that on the 4 hour and the hourly. Let's go down to our intermediate time frames and essentially just see if they are agreeing with what we're seeing on the higher time frames here. And there's your nice bullish divergence off of the overnight low on the 30-minute as well. So essentially you had that on the daily. You can't see it because there's not enough resolution, but when you get to the 4 hour you see it. The 1 hour is the only time frame that you don't see it, and then you come to the 30-minute and you get a really clear bullish divergence. And then currently right now you don't see a bearish indication off the current overnight high, which is essentially what I'm saying I see on the 60-minute as well. So it's maybe a little bit more messy over in this little area, but we do have that nice agreement of the bullish signal off of that overnight low. And let's go to our 10-minute and the 10-minute as well. really nice bullish indication off of that overnight low. And again, notice that we had our eye level here at 36.25 that we were looking and actually took some longs off of yesterday morning. That ended up being essentially where they bounced here in the overnight. So they came down to 35.75, 2 ticks below the eye level, and then from there we have, and this goes down to the short time frames as well. So we have the tick chart, the 1 minute, the 3 minute, the 10 minute here, the 30 minute, and then like I said, the 60 minute doesn't show it, but then the 4 hour. So we have essentially every time frame except for the 60 minute giving us that bullish indication from the low. So this morning it's going to be important for us to continue to chug here and hold that 35.75 level, just because of all the bullish indications. We'd like to see that hold for a continued push higher to break the overnight high. And so that's kind of what we're looking for this morning. We also want to keep in mind that overall this is a very bullish market, and we don't have, let's go ahead real quickly here and go to our high time frames again. If we look at, this might be too zoomed out, but if we look at the quarterly, the 3-month chart here, super bullish with no exhaustion pattern. Monthly, super bullish, no exhaustion pattern. Weekly, super bullish, no exhaustion pattern. And daily, super bullish, no exhaustion pattern. That makes me more skeptical that we're going to have a stronger pullback, of something that goes 50 to 100 points. But can't rule it out that we could have some type of small pullback here, just because we did have the intermediate time frame showing some bear signals up here. And if that's the case, we do have some decent levels below us to kind of hang our hat on. And again, look to see if we have a nice clear signal to try the levels if price does continue to pull back and break through that overnight low at 35.75. So if that does break, that doesn't mean that the bullish bias is over with. It just means we're going to want to look for some levels below us to try long. And we do have, the previous daily low at 20.75 itself is a decent support and resistance level. If we look back to the past, now we haven't been this high in the market, so we really only have the last 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks of price action to look at up here. And this 20.75 was a pretty decent resistance level and even a support level. You can see our 50% of the previous day as well also was a pretty decent resistance level going four days back here, and then was a pretty decent support, although it was broken by say a point or two and then continued to bounce from there. So these levels we have below us, just the generic daily low, 50% of the previous day, those are going to be important levels. And then when we zoom down to see our eye levels here on the 10 minute, these other levels in between could potentially also be pretty important here on any type of pullback. So that's where we'll leave it this morning. Probably a pretty quick morning analysis here.